Hey, what's up YouTube? Have you ever heard of Just Room Enough Island? No? Well, don't worry, neither had I until about 5 minutes ago. Just Room Enough Island is known as the smallest inhabited island in the entire world, probably. And it looks like this. Wait, wrong slide. On the island is a house, a tree, some bushes, and a tiny beach. And for some reason, I am absolutely obsessed with this. I need this island, not this one, in my city. And that's exactly what we're going to do. This seems like a pretty good spot to put it. I think that it makes sense to make the house before the island. I don't want to make the island too big, as there's meant to be just enough room. It's in the name. So the house comes first. Starting with the front. The house is quite interesting actually. It's not the kind of design that you'd expect to just be floating in the middle of the ocean. It just sort of looks like a regular house. It has a raised foundation with these pillars either side of the front door and on the corners of the house. It seems to be made out of some sort of brown panelled material. I just decided to use spruce planks for this. Moving on to the side of the build, this is where things get really interesting. The house is rather long, and it has this bit in the middle that kind of extends out. It's not your average shape. There's also windows on the upper half of the house, which suggests to me that they are there just for light purposes, or there is some sort of second floor in here, which doesn't really seem possible. Moving on to the back of the house, I'm not certain that this portion of the house was always here. I think that this is an extension or addition. And what I like about this part is that there's a back door, which would be handy if there was, like, a back garden, but there's not. So I'm not really sure what purpose this has. Other than if you're just flooded outside your front door, I guess you can come out the back. I chose to make this final side of the house almost identical to the opposite side, as this is the only clean image that I could get of this side of the build. And it seems very similar. I think that this is a good time to seal up the floor before we get any unwelcome guests. Planning out the shape of the roof was rather simple, although I wasn't certain to go for mangrove, as I have done, or to go for acacia. I went with mangrove in the end because I think that it works nicer with the spruce, but it could have went either way. The apex of the roof seems to line up directly above the middle of the center window, and then there is a flat portion of the roof at the back of the build. It's the exact same for this opposite side. Also, I forgot to make the window on this side of the build earlier. Oops. When filling in these kinds of rooms, I always find it's easiest to connect the planks together first, and then the slabs later. There are a couple of complications with this roof, however. On the front of the build, we have a window about 1/3 of the way up, which is fine, but the only way that I could make this look right is by placing the mangrove slabs around the upper half of the top of the roof, and then covering up all of the other mismatched blocks with grey carpet. The second complication is that the roof peaks above the back door, and that we have a small chimney on the right side of the roof. And now I feel a bit silly using the word complication because this was incredibly simple to do. Oh, also there's a massive cobblestone chimney in the middle back part of the roof, which I made using cobblestone. At this point, the house itself is looking pretty good. I think that it's about time to make the island. And remember, there just has to be room enough. But also I don't want to make it too small because it will look weird. I chose to extend 4 rows out in front of and behind the build using grass, and 5 rows on the left and right side of the build using grass. I curved the edges to make a circle-ish, and then replaced some of the grass at the front with smooth sandstone, as there is meant to be a beach. I also thought some smooth sandstone slab would look particularly nice at the front as well. It makes the island feel more accessible, which I don't want because it's just mine. There is nothing that I love more than the natural Minecraft tree generation. Say that 5 times fast. And I think that the one that would fit this build the best is mangrove. Not only is it roughly the right size, shape, density for the island, but I also like the fact that it kind of feeds back into the ocean. I think that some bone meal wouldn't go amiss around here either. We also have to add a little bit of seating on the front of the island. In some images, there's actually quite a lot of seating, which suggests to me that whoever owns this house might actually have visitors. I'll have to get my floaties on and swim over. And honestly, at this point, I think that the outside is done. This looks so good. However, if this thing is going to be in my city, we need to do a little something about the inside. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any images for the inside of the house, so I had to take matters into my own hands. So here is the interior. I have went for a more rustic approach with this one. We have a rather large living room with a fireplace that is kind of center place. I've tried to include lots of bookshelves and shelving and kind of more utilitarian amenities in the house, as I can't imagine that there's too much to do on your very own private island. I doubt that the internet's great out here. Something cool that I chose to add is kind of a loft bedroom. We have the windows on the upper side of the build here, and of course the larger one at the front, so it makes sense that we would have something like this. We have a bunch of wardrobe storage. I tried to continue the fireplace up into the roof, as that is roughly where the chimney is on the outside, so it makes even more sense. And we have a bed here as well. This in the white carpet, that didn't bother me at all. Shout out to this mangrove plant. Heading back downstairs, we do have that's right, count them, 2 additional rooms. The first of which is a small bathroom, which once again, I'm trying to make more rusticy, more cabiny feeling. It just seems to fit. Moving over to the opposite side of the house, we have a kitchen. And do I have to use the word rustic one more time? Because I will. I'll do it. Here we have a pretty basic kitchen and dining room table setup. And also our back door, which leads to, I guess in our case, we have a very small garden. And honestly, ladies and gentlemen, that's kind of it. Thank you for getting into the weeds with me. And well, I have to go now, so I'll let you borrow my boat. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Good. Bye.